But I think that the real change that can come in a country, and this is really what part of what our program is about with IWMF, is trying to make sure that local journalists have the training and the resources to be able to do this the most effective way that they can. And so, people may not like this, and it goes against the grain of a lot of what we're talking about, but in some places in the world, journalism probably needs a little advocacy mixed with it because of what's happening in that part of the world. So, I mean, you've got to be careful with that. But I would be a big supporter of journalists who, in their own environment, are having to report. I mean, when you're reporting on atrocities and presidents of countries that are purposely transferring wealth from the poorer part of the country to their own pocket, I mean, those things you can hardly avoid some kind of interjection of advocacy or opinion or something, and so it has to be there in some of those circumstances. So I think it's a very critical part of what has to happen.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I would say that in the context of the greatest journalism, in a way, it derives from what you would call advocacy, in the sense that if you identify climate change as perhaps the greatest single threat to civilization as we know it at this point, the journalism that addresses that is, in a sense, advocacy journalism. If you say the single greatest cause of poverty as we know it is the gender gap, then you have to, again, focus on the gender gap as a subject and come up with all sorts of ways and approaches to report on it that illuminates and enlightens people to understand this is the way we diminish poverty, and it's the only way we're going to diminish poverty. So there are a whole vast array of subjects that are unidentified, say, by governments or official channels that wouldn't get reported at all if you just waited for the next press release or press statement or what officials do in government or business. You have to identify what the biggest predicaments are for people, and that really is advocacy journalism, I think.
The only other thing I'd just add, because I think IWMF is so important in what can happen here, is, and with the awards that they give every year, there are a lot of journalists who would come in the category of advocacy journalism who put their life on the line to do this. And it's very easy for us not to, really pay much attention to that or embrace what that really means. But their families are threatened, their livelihoods are threatened. Advocacy journalism is something that is what can change things in parts of the world where change really needs to happen. So I don't think you can underestimate the importance of it, or what many people, individuals, are willing to sacrifice personally to get it done.